I had no way of knowing, y'all. I had no clue that when I started the interview, it would go way too long to make it one episode. But it just goes to the depth of our relationship and the content that we were talking about. So today, I'm going to return to the interview I had with Adam Farmer so that I can get to the end of my actual show flow, because we were so far off the script that it was over an hour before we got through it. So I am going to jump back in to a great conversation I had with my friend and my brother, Adam Farmer. I am Brandon T. Bailey, and this is Controversy. All right, so we're jumping back in. At the end of the last episode, we were discussing prayer and meditation. So Adam was explaining what he thought the differences between prayer and meditation were. And that's where we picked up at the end of the faith segment of the show and starting to make that transition into the feeling segment of the show. So I hope you will continue to enjoy my conversation with my friend and my brother, Adam Farmer. Yeah, I mean, I definitely came to those the hard way. I was very familiar with prayer. I definitely grew up in that more words, more power. But it was interesting developing the meditation part of it. That was very, very challenging for me. But I have found such a deeper appreciation for the prayer part as a result of the meditation part. And so, like, now that I'm communicating that to other listeners, it's always interesting to get grew up in ministry and in faith to get their perspective. I can almost guarantee you we're in the second part of the Adam Farmer episode now, because I want to make the switch to the feelings. And of course, just so y'all know that technology never works, my computer's frozen, so I'm going to look at the notes on my phone now. But Adam, you've already shared some great insights, brother. I want you've talked about faith. Now I want to talk about feelings. Okay. So this is where Brene Brown's teaching on vulnerability comes in handy. Okay. 2020 stretched my vulnerability. You have been more comfortable with it much longer than I, so I'm very excited to get to this part. This may be a little bit messy, but I think that our listeners can really appreciate your perspective here. You ready for this, man?
Let's go.
All right, so the first one is, what does mental health mean to you, and why is it important for a larger audience of people to care? Because I find a lot of, especially church folks, they don't always understand why it's important. I say a lot in the podcast and in my writing that has changed post-pandemic, and I'm glad about that. But most folks in the church wasn't talking about mental health. So what does it mean to you, and why is it important to most folks?
Mental health. So again, I think like freedom, the word freedom and well-being are synonymous to me. Healthy is well-being, right? And, mentally you have to be healthy because, our minds are such an important, our minds are such an important part of who we are as human beings.
Right.
And so again, it is incumbent upon every individual to define health and well-being for themselves, to know what is important for you, why, it is the purpose, coming back to purpose. But if you don't have any clarity around that, for your listeners? I mean, you've done the work. I've seen you do the work, and I know you are a teacher at your core. You are always looking to share information with people. So, I would encourage your listeners to really reach out to you. Yeah. So for me, mental health, for me, health is the same as like freedom. So health and
Right.
well-being are kind of the same as freedom and well-being. So to have a healthy mind means that you are well, right? There is an abundance of well-being um, that is in your life experience, right? To be healthy, especially in your mind, this thing that allows us to experience the senses of the world, smell, taste, touch, hear. Um, then it's really important
Yeah.
to define what health is for you. Like, I know what healthy means for me, but health for me may not mean the same thing for you. Um, and it's very important to have a clarity and a focus around what health means and well-being means for you. So the part about medications for me goes back to when my mother was still alive, because back in the 90s, okay, when I can remember being in third grade, when was the first time that I knew that my mother had an episode. And my
Okay.
mother was bipolar, so she had manic depression. And so that was my first experience with my mother having an episode. And back then, black folks don't like to talk about mental illness at all. And in the
At all.
90s, shit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
back then, the medications were not as good. So they were either highs, they would go high because they stopped taking their medication, and then they would overdiagnose you in terms of medication. So then my mother be walking around like a zombie. And this, again, is in the 90s, right? So that fluctuation of medications. And so I resolved to myself very early on, because I was always an athlete or anything like that. Like, other than vitamins, like I've
Right.
never, like, I don't do medications. But because I started to study the human body and what it was designed to do, I just understand how my body works at a deeper level than most people, right? And so, as a result of that, my body takes care of me because I take care of my body. And so, it's a relationship between me and me, right? I only get one body, so I take care of it. I only get one set of teeth, so I make sure that my teeth are good. I'm flossing, keep my hair, so I take care of myself because I'm supposed to, because I want to live a healthy life until I'm 120. And so when you start introducing pharmaceuticals and medications from the pharmaceutical industry, to me, that's no bueno, right? Because to me personally, that's not about health and well-being. That's about sickness and death. And so I have a different perspective of it. And thank God, I'm healthy. And
Right.
as a result,
It hasn't been something you had to make a personal choice about.
right. And then, when you get into that whole medical kind of a conversation, and you've been hospitalized and all that stuff, that's almost worse than going to prison. You know what I mean? Because it's just that's just a bad road to go down for anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've been interested in peeling back the onion a little bit on that because, like I said, my perspective has evolved as I have learned of people who have had to take it, as I have faced my own issues and challenges, and just, I think that there's so much range in terms of really addressing these types of issues. And like you said this earlier, we don't talk about it. And because we have not talked about it for so long, it's so cliche. It's so, like, protected. It's such a, I don't know. It's just it's kind of one of those weird things that I think would really benefit from more honest and open dialogue to help people make better decisions about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, for me personally, the reason that I don't talk about it or engage in it, because it goes back to my governing value, right? So for me, freedom is the most important thing, and so I'm not focused on, because I've had people to me personally say, "You're always happy. You live in this euphoric state," and it's like, well, what does that mean, right? As if because I'm happy, something is wrong with me, and perhaps I should be on medication.
Right.
Whoa.
Which is bananas when most of the world is down trying to get up.
Right. So something must be wrong with you because you're not like the rest of the world.
Right.
So, like.
Exactly. That's bananas.
Yeah. So I always have to take that stuff with a grain of salt. So there's just certain conversations that I just will not have with people because it's just like you have no idea who I am, right? And nobody else has to know me. I have to know me more than anybody else, and I have to be healthy and sane and focusing on what I want versus worried about what somebody else thinks about me. As they say, what somebody else thinks about you is none of your business.
Yeah. But Byron Katie talks about 3 types of business: your business, their business, and God's business. And she talks about reality as God's business. And we always meddle in that business, and we don't spend that energy in our own. And so I am definitely learning to sort whose business is what and how to operate in each one.
And I'll tell you this, and this may be helpful to you. So, like, Kenneth Hagin has a YouTube video that I used to go to sleep at night with. I just play it at night, and it was called God's Medicine for Healing. Right? So if God's word is medicine and words have the power to give life, then you should take your vitamins, your God's pill, God's pill, right? The gospel, like medicine, 3 times a day. And so, it's just, at the end of the day, man, everybody has to figure out how to make themselves happy and figure out what works for them at the core of their being, and make sure that it is something that they can feel good about at the end of the day.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, TS Strong family, Adam has done more than warm us up. He has taken us deep. He has stretched us wide. He's given us gospel. He's given us life. I'm geeked to share all of this with all of you. Adam, when I first conceptualized the podcast, I specifically had, mental health in mind when I talked about faith and feelings. But as things kind of evolved and conversations I was having with people, it kind of expanded a little bit in that there is some tension between faith and feelings itself, emotions, and how emotions can often be separated from our faith. So as we kind of start to wrap things up and really start to think about the future of faith and feelings, I want to shine a spotlight on this specific part of that controversy and really help our TS Strong community see what that tension is and ways that they can ultimately address it. You still willing to help me with that as we kind of wrap this interview up?
I don't know, man. I don't know. The future.
Hey, I want y'all to understand that Adam Farmer received the show flow before he started here.
And I want y'all to understand that I may or may not have gotten it.
All right. So prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, the church was not talking nearly as much about mental health. What do you think should be the relationship between faith and feelings?
The way, if I was a pastor of a church, the way that I would teach my congregation about faith and feelings is this. If you have feelings, right, and those feelings cause you to feel negative or bad or, right, whatever those words are that are not positive, then that is an automatic indicator given to you by God Almighty that you are not looking at that situation the way that God would look at it. Right? Because God is faith now, always faith. So anything negative is out of faith, and you're in your feelings. So then the question becomes, do I want to be where God is, or do I want to stay where I'm at? And most people want God to come to where they are. Right? But God ain't moving. Because God is always in faith now. So that's why he said to Cain, why is your countenance so low? If you would just do this thing differently, I will receive you. But you got to come to where I am. And that's why God is sovereign. Because God ain't coming down at that foolishness where you at.
So I'm going to jump down to a question that's later, but you just sparked it. So when you think about the future of faith and feelings, when you think about this tension we've been talking about this entire time, is the church, right? So now a little different than God specifically, right? But the body of Christ, is the church supposed to meet the people where they are, or does the people have to meet the church where it is?
So all right, you went there. Okay, let's go there.
That's what this is all about, brother.
So I heard Bishop Jakes say this recently, that if Jesus Christ were to come back on earth today, we would have to explain church to him.
Agreed.
Because he don't know nothing about no building. He don't know nothing about no usher. He don't know nothing about a lot of these offices that have been installed post Jesus Christ's ministry. Church. So, of course you meet the people where they are. But if you notice, what Jesus always did was Jesus never acknowledged the dysfunction. All of the miracles. Man sitting by the pool for 38 years. Do you want to be well? Then pick up your bed and walk. He wasn't studying that man talking about something. What happened? How did you get out here? Oh my God.
I talked about that in one of my messages.
Like, come on.
He said, but they keep walking past me and they won't help. But they.
Right. What you want to do?
The stories we tell ourselves.
Right. What you want to do? Because if you want to be well today, then you can pick up your bed and you can go walk. Right. That's a hard thing for a lot of people to deal with, because there is a benefit to them in that, whatever that is.
Absolutely. We tell ourselves those stories for a reason.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm curious about is So modern church is what it is. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's definitely different than what it was at its inception. But does the church have to adjust in how it meets the people in this space,
Yes.
in this weird
Yes.
head space?
Yes.
Because
Yes. Yes.
I
Yes.
think it is kind of now pandemic. Yay.
No, the
But
church definitely has to change the way that it addresses the so-called needs of the people, right?
yeah.
Um, and if they don't, then they will die.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna leave it
Yeah.
at that.
Right. right. Should there be so there's a ministry for almost everything. Should there be a mental health, I don't know, something ministry? Should that be something the church
No,
puts its foot in?
so if I were the pastor of a church, this is the way that I would teach my members. You decide what story you want to tell. So, do you want to tell a story that makes you feel good about the story that you're telling about your life or not? Right? Because if you say, okay, yes, I want to tell a story that makes me feel good about the story that I'm telling about myself, then you have to do the work to tell that good feeling story. Or you don't. Because
Now
the
or you
story that
don't.
you're telling now don't make you feel good. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Right.
So now you know what you don't want because that doesn't make you feel good. So what do you want?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And I guess I'm fighting with, what about the folks who can't do that? Like, they don't have the
Who?
skills. They don't
Look,
know.
I'm not. Everybody has the same access to the same God, the same power. Ain't nobody. I can't deprive anybody of access to anything.
Yeah.
Right? I don't. I don't. I can't. I can't. I can't do anything to Brandon.
Right.
Right? Brandon does everything to himself, good, bad, or indifferent. Right?
Yeah.
Now, Brandon can try to blame it on me if he wants to. That's fine. That's not my business. Right? Same with me. I do everything to myself. I can try to blame all kind of stuff on all kind of other people. But at the end of the day, is the story that I'm telling of why I don't have what I don't have and blaming it on somebody else. How does that make me feel?
Right. Is it getting me where I want to go? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I will tell listeners, what he is saying is the philosophy I am teaching, but it is also the philosophy I still struggle with. Like, I'm just gonna be I'm just gonna be 100 with folks. Like, you got to get to the point where you understand that and you own that responsibility without carrying the guilt of it. Right? Because what happens is people start to say, oh, well, I can't. And so then they wear this guilt badge for all the things they're not doing. And that's not Christ's message either. Right? That's not where he's trying to send you. Right? It's taking that ownership, but giving it to him and allowing him to grace you with what you need to do in order to get there.
But Brandon, Christ is in you.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you, brother.
That is the hope of glory.
Yeah.
Right? So
ain't that the word?
Christ ain't external. Who you giving it to?
Yeah.
Right? We want to abdicate our responsibility to a man that died over 2020 years ago.
Facts. These are facts.
A man that walked on the face of this earth who said, I have come to show you the way. I have come to show you that these things that I have done, you shall do also. Yeah. And greater works shall you do. Jesus don't know nothing about no internet. I was just watching a show on Oprah about the guy that got released from prison 20 years ago. He didn't even know He was like, why that damn phone keep chirping and beeping? Right? He don't know nothing about no text messages. That was 20 years ago. Jesus don't know nothing about no phone.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that there is an opportunity to reintroduce people to themselves.
Yeah.
And to their true selves. The part of themselves that they have for years and years and decades neglected.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And not having wanted to deal with. And then it is, as my spiritual teacher, she said, you're looking for love in all of the wrong places. And you're looking for it externally. And the real deal is it's an inside job. It is the Christ in you. Can you get back to that anointing and that spirit and that part of yourself that you don't even believe exists anymore?
Yep.
That
you don't believe exists anymore. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That is the work. Adam Farmer, I am immensely grateful for your time, for your insights. I think that our community will benefit greatly from hearing what you have shared with us. One of the things that I love about the controversial nature of this conversation is the fact that it could go on forever. I didn't know. Me and you have been doing this for a while, so I'm not surprised it did what it did. I'm glad I'll be able to split it up a little bit and make it digestible to the crowd. But I want to wrap up. They will be like, these two Negroes won't ever. They don't cut it out. But I want to wrap up, and I want you to consider your parting words to the TS community. That's our trauma survivors, our trauma supporters. Final 3 questions. Number 1, what are your final words of guidance that current and future trauma survivors and supporters need to hear? If you could wrap up everything we've talked about, what do these people who are trying to survive this day and age, what do they need to hear?
That what I think the TS community needs to hear is that the God who has all of the energy that created this world decided to put a piece of that energy inside of you.
That's good, Doc. Just a piece.
Just a piece. And if you connect to that piece,
oh my God,
then you are more powerful than 10 million people who never connect to that piece.
That's good. That's real good. I like that a lot. Adam, are there any books or other resources that are relevant to the topic that you think we should check out? I would just tell you, you guys now, I think for 2 episodes, based on where I think this episode will be placed, have heard me talk about Byron Katie, have heard me talk about Loving What Is. Adam Farmer introduced me to her and her work, so I know that whatever he is about to tell you, you want to go and check it out and put that into your rotation. It'll bless your spiritual walk for sure. But Adam, are there books or resources that you think the community should check out?
For this community, I would encourage you all to hang out with Brandon in the Byron Katie body of work. She is thoughtful, considerate, and one of the best guides in the world for this kind of work, to helping reintroduce you to yourself. If you like to read, there is a couple of books by Napoleon Hill. First, the Think and Grow Rich, which is probably his most famous book, that was written. But there was a second book that came out posthumously that was written by a friend of mine, Greg Reed and Sharon Lechner. And that book is called Outwitting the Devil.
Yes, sir. I was hoping that's what you were going to say.
And that book is really will give you an opportunity to investigate the mental battles and the mental gymnastics that go on, which is very important to mental health and, helping you to decide that you want better for yourself. So I would say Byron Katie and Outwitting the Devil.
I love that. I talk about drifting. And I drifted through 2014 post my father passing.
Yeah.
Like, you just look up and go, well, what happened?
Yeah,
I was an autopilot.
Yeah. And it wasn't really good because I got all kinds of scratches and dings on my car. This autopilot really didn't work.
Like, what fight was I in and why didn't anybody tell me?
Yeah.
Adam Farmer, are you working on anything that you want us to check out or to support your mission and your message? Keep in mind, this will be sometime January of next year, February at the latest, I think, before our listeners actually hear it. So what you got coming down the pipeline?
Oh man, I'm just a regular old dude, man, trying to live
whatever.
My life. Trying to live my life.
Don't y'all believe that Adam ain't sat still ever.
Yeah, no, I want to do all that I can to support you and the work that you're doing, because part of my mission in life is to help to promote spiritual, physical, and financial well-being of humanity. And so this is a part of that physical well-being because it deals with the mind and the body, right? Because your body is a physical representation of some of your thoughts, right? Which is why I referenced Napoleon Hill, because your thoughts do become things. They do manifest themselves. Oh, Carolyn Leaf, another resource. Caroline Leaf, Dr. Carolyn Leaf, she does a great body of work in terms of detoxifying your mental unhealthiness. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So that's all I got, man.
That's it, and that's all. Hey, man, I appreciate you, brother.
Love you, man. I'll holler at you soon.
All right, no doubt, man. We'll talk soon.
All right, cool. Peace.
Trauma survivors, trauma supporters, to all of you, my TS Strong community, thank you so much for investing the time to watch or to listen to another episode of the Controversy Podcast. I, your host, Brandon T. Bailey, am so grateful for your time, your attention, your energy, and your effort to support this very, very, very important mission. Listen, as we endeavor to make our show better and continue to offer incredible resources to all of you, the TS Strong community, I do have an ask. I'm going to ask that you subscribe, rate, and review the show. Let us know what you think. Let us know what we could do better. Let us know what kind of resources we can continue to offer to all of you, the TS community, so that we can all together learn to live TS Strong. All right, finally, I want to personally invite you to the Controversy Project Facebook group, A Safe Place. It is a free and exclusive community where trauma survivors and trauma supporters have gathered together to share testimonies, to share resources, and to share support and love for each other, as all of us are endeavoring to learn to live TS Strong. This is just another one of the many multimedia platforms that we have chosen to use in order to fulfill this very, very important mission. And I want to invite you to be a part of it and obviously welcome you to it in advance. Listen, in closing, until next time, I want to remind each and every one of you how important it is for you to confront your pain, how important it is for you to live your purpose, and how important it is for you to invest in your project. Till next time, peace.